Introduction to the Star World Legendary Guild. Do you want to take risks? Do you want to add excitement to your boring life? Please go to XX to fill out the information, and you are a member of our Holy Mark Guild. A wizard girl read as she looked at the flyer. President. Run quickly. That guy XXX has been heartbroken again, he's currently fighting with you. Damn it. Even if you become the Sword Saint, you will still break up in love. President, that guy said you lied to him and made it impossible for him to become a wizard before he broke up in love. Anyway, you better run away. Damn it, that guy even said I harmed him even though he didn't have any magical talent. Forget it, I'll leave this to you. I'll hide from him for a while before we talk. The sorcerer girl saw the Lord of the Holy Emblem moving at a speed that caused a visual illusion of slight displacement, and quickly passed by her side. The magical girl lightly smiled and caressed the wizard's hat affected by the strong wind, deciding, the Holy Pattern Guild is really interesting. I have decided to join this guild. Chapter 1. Introduction. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In 2050, Guyu Game Company released a highly free single-player game called Starry Universe World. This game has been on sale for 3 years, but unfortunately, no one has been able to connect Space Ruins and the 10th level boss in this game without modifying the game information. When Guyu Game Company released this game, it said, the first gamer who does not modify the original information of the game and opens up the 10th level boss of this game will have hidden eggs worth millions. The promise of Guyu Game Company has allowed many players to experience this game for Easter egg games, and the content of Starry Universe World is also very exciting. With the promotion of several unique gameplay features by Easter egg and game anchors, Guyu Game Company sells millions of game verification codes every year. The reason why there is no one who can get through this highly free game of Starry World without modifying the data is because in this game, the recruited mercenaries, adventurers, and attributes are all random, and once the recruited mercenaries and adventurers die, they cannot be revived, causing players to work hard to cultivate advanced mercenaries and adventurers and accidentally die in a battle, directly leading to the player's training of these mercenaries and adventurers being in vain, which greatly increases the difficulty of the game. On December 20, 2050, in XX City, China, on the 23rd floor of Building 3 in XX Garden Community, a young man looked at the computer screen in room XXX and said in a grateful voice, "Hee, Star Orange actually moved that thing to revive his beloved female Holy Sword mercenary." Hee, this also led him to give up getting the first hidden Easter egg worth millions of dollars in Star single-player game. Since he didn't want it, I accepted it. I didn't expect it to take so long to grind down the 10th level boss, but it finally took me a while. The first place is already mine, but the ending credits are too long. Anyway, I'll take a nap first and watch the Easter eggs tomorrow. After 2 days of hard work, the somewhat messy young man finally defeated the 10th level boss, yawning and watching the exciting fight scenes on the computer screen. He then walked towards the bed not far away, which was so tired that he couldn't sleep directly at the end. While the somewhat disheveled young man with black hair was sleeping soundly for half an hour, his computer screen had already finished playing all the exciting scenes. Congratulations to the player for being the first to kill the strongest boss. You can receive one of our company's 2 major rewards. However, 3 major options have emerged on the computers of sloppy young people. First item. Obtain 1% of the company's shares and become the honorary testing director of the company's game contract. Option 2. Obtain a bonus of 5 million yuan from our company and assist with a 1-month promotional activity contract. Third item. After another half hour, the scruffy young man's computer suddenly showed a countdown, but these changes were completely unknown to the already sleeping scruffy young man. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. When the countdown of the computer reached 0, the computer directly selected the third option, and the computer's audio system emitted a congratulatory sound, saying, "Congratulations player, as you did not choose to automatically select the third option, now proceed with the transfer." When the sound of the computer audio system disappears, a magic circle appears on the computer screen, and finally a black hole is generated in the magic circle. The suction of the black hole has no effect on the things in the room, except for the messy young people who are sleeping soundly and constantly moving towards the black hole. The messy young man, who was sleeping soundly, teleported from the black hole of the magic circle to a platform where an old man with a long beard sensed the magic circle behind him and said, "I didn't expect someone to choose the third option. It's really surprising." Zzz, the old man with a long beard waited for a while but no one responded. The old man heard the regular breathing sound on the magic formation platform behind him and couldn't help but turn around to see the messy young man sleeping soundly. It seems that it was automatically selected and transmitted. Since he can't choose his own wish, I'll help him arrange it. The long-bearded old man decided when he saw the messy young man sleeping soundly without any intention of waking up. When the old man approached the scruffy young man and touched him with his hand, he frowned and said, "This young man's physique is really poor. And now he is in a deep dormant state to restore his spirit. If he were sent to that world, he might not live for a week. It seems that we need to improve his physique. Dragon blood, as long as this is added, he should be able to adapt to the life there." The long-bearded old man took out a syringe, and looked at the silver-white liquid inside the syringe and muttered to himself. When an old man with a long beard gave a shot to a scruffy young man, soon the scruffy young man suddenly woke up with his eyes wide open, looking very painful, and then fainted, his body constantly twitching. Oh! Surprisingly, there was rejection. The old man with a long beard saw the reaction of the messy young man and said, then his right hand lightly tapped the messy young man's forehead, and his expression slowly calmed down. "Well, that's about it, by the way, there's this one more thing," the very long-bearded old man said, and suddenly his right hand transformed into a chip, which was placed on the scruffy young man's forehead. The chip automatically entered the scruffy young man's forehead, leaving no trace on his forehead. "Alright, hee, little one, enjoy living in a different world." The long-bearded old man manipulated the messy young man again, making him look 10 years younger than he did in his teenage years. He nodded in satisfaction and then pointed with his right hand, forming a huge teleportation array at his fingertips, directly teleporting the messy young man away. On the morning of October 13, 1172, in the Flying Dragon Kingdom of Xinyu Continent, there was a large tavern with a sign written on it. The tavern is already bustling with mercenaries, adventurers, ordinary people. They are telling stories, boasting, drinking with each other, and even insulting each other. Wait a minute. Damn it. Which stingy caravan posted a mission to escort Guyu town, only 10 hard silver coins per person. Now there are at least 30 silver coins to go to Guyu town, and even yesterday I heard that the mission to escort Guyu town is only 1 gold coin per person, but unfortunately I didn't catch up. A young man with black hair, drinking a cup of wheat wine in his hand, was staring at him, holding the dishes and wine ordered by the guests. The cute, beautiful, youthful and energetic young waitress suddenly heard a male mercenary complaining to his companions from the bar counter. "Yeah, that caravan is really stingy. Forget it, let's have a drink together. Maybe we'll have a high-paying and simple task later," suggested a middle-aged mercenary soldier companion to him. "Okay, but I've been a bit tight lately. Please treat me to a drink first, and when I have more money, I'll treat you to a good drink." "Okay," the middle-aged mercenary asked his companion. "Hee, what should I do?" "Just this matter, I'll treat you," agreed the middle-aged mercenary companion with a smile. "I don't have the money to drink, I'm still picky." The young man with black hair drinking at the table shook his head and chuckled softly when he heard the conversation between the middle-aged man and the mercenary. "Guyu town. Well, it's been 2 years since I last went back, and I don't know how things have changed over there now." The young man with black hair muttered to himself with emotion. How much does the boss cost in total? The young man with black hair came to the tavern counter and asked the tavern owner. Guest, you ordered xiangfei carbon roast chicken, boiled earth rock fruit, peanuts, and 2 glasses of barley wine, totaling 1.16 silver coins. The tavern owner smiled at the young man with black hair. The young man with black hair took out a 1-denomination silver coin and 2 10-denomination copper coins and placed them at the tavern counter, asking, "Look at the money, right?" The tavern owner took out 4 copper coins and placed them in front of the young man with black hair, saying, "Guest, this is the change for you." "Boss, I just heard someone say that you have a mission to Guyu town, I don't know if it's true." The young man with black hair asked the tavern owner. The tavern owner nodded upon hearing the young man's words and said, "Indeed, this task does exist, but the reward for this escort task is very low. Are you interested in this task, guest?" Guyu reading www.yuyukeungshu.net, give me a copy. Black-haired young man. A silver coin. Mercenary badge or adventure badge, said the tavern owner with a finger. Here. The young man with black hair handed a silver coin and an adventure badge to the tavern owner. "Well, the reward is only 10 silver coins, and we still need to gather at the entrance of the Castello fortress before 9 o'clock. There's still some time, it seems like we should go to the hotel and prepare for departure." The young man with black hair took the tavern owner's task scroll and the already registered adventure badge, and as he opened the scroll, he muttered to himself. "Well, this place is really bustling." The young man with black hair, fully armed, arrived at the entrance of the Castello fortress and saw that there were already many caravans preparing to depart, and many people like him were waiting for the caravans. Isn't that Uncle Chemidus?" The young man with black hair saw a familiar middle-aged man leading a dozen or so people to drive 5 Muru beasts. Muru beasts. The appearance of a triangular dragon resembling a Jurassic movie is very similar. It is gentle, timid, and herbivorous. As long as it is not intentionally attacked and injured, it will not actively attack any surrounding creatures. Advantages: strong strength, strong endurance. Disadvantages: slow speed, large appetite. He pulled 5 loaded cargo trucks to the entrance of the Platinum Fortress and unexpectedly muttered to himself. "Uncle Chemidus." The young man with black hair shouted to the familiar middle-aged businessman driving the MLU Beast in the MLU Beast carriage. The middle-aged businessman sitting in the MLU Beast cart heard someone calling out to him, so he looked in the same direction as the voice calling out to him. When he found the young man with black hair, he looked a little excited and shouted, "Yen Tailong. It's you. When did you come back?" "Citus, I'll leave the caravan to you," said the middle-aged businessman of Chemidus, handing his whip to his companions. He then got off the carriage and the young man of Yen Tailong walked over. Chapter 2. Protagonist Attributes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Stinky kid, you've been there for the past 2 years. Why didn't you write us a letter? We thought something unexpected happened to you. The middle-aged businessman from Chemidus walked up to Yen Tailong and lightly punched his left chest with a tone of complaint, but the meaning in his words was full of concern for him. Yen Tailong did not dodge a punch from his benefactor, his elder Chemidus, but when he heard his concern, he felt embarrassed to touch his hair with his right hand and said, "Uncle Chemidus, I'm really sorry. I've been so busy these past 2 years that I forgot that I could still write a letter." "Stinky kid, it's okay for you to deceive others. I think you're just too lazy to write, but seeing how you look now, there must be a long story to tell. This is not a good place to tell stories. Why don't you go back to Guyu town with us and tell me what happened to you?" Chemidus suggested with a smile. Upon hearing Chemidus's proposal, Yen Tailong shook and said, "Uncle Chemidus, I'm sorry. I can't go back to Guyu town with you now." "Stinky kid, why is this?" Chemidus asked with a displeased and puzzled expression when he heard Yen Tailong's words. "Just now, I took on the task of escorting a caravan to Guyu town at Haoming Tavern, so Uncle Chemidus, let's meet in Guyu town. Yen Tailong said. Is it the task taken by the tavern? Stinky boy, can you show me your escort caravan task? Chemidus asked Yen Tailong to see the task scroll he took when he heard his words. Of course. Yen Tailong agreed to the task requirements that Chemidus wanted to see without hesitation, and took out the scroll from his body and handed it to Chemidus. When Chemidus opened the scroll and saw the task content, he said directly, Yen Tailong, you are so good at taking an E-level escort task worth 10 silver coins, that's it. Uncle Chemidus, is there a problem with this task? Yen Tailong saw Chemidus looking at the task scroll with a disdainful expression, but suddenly became serious and asked nervously. No, hee, Yen Tailong, you took on this task well. Chemidus took the scroll and looked at Yen Tailong, his expression suddenly changed and he smiled. Yen Tailong took the task scroll handed over by Chemidus and thought to himself, Uncle Chemidus seems a bit strange. Is there a problem with this task scroll? Yen Tailong, our caravan still has something to do. We'll see you later, Chemidus said as he saw Yen Tailong take the scroll. Before Yen Tailong could react, he left and walked towards his own caravan. Uncle Chemidus, he looks really strange. Is there really a problem with this task? Yen Tailong felt puzzled and muttered to himself just now. Well, there's nothing strange about this task. It's just that the reward is a bit low. Yen Tailong opened the scroll and looked carefully, realizing that there was no problem with the content, feeling puzzled inside. While there is still some time left, I, the author, will greatly introduce some of the protagonist's situation to readers. The protagonist of this book is Yen Tailong, who is 1.76 meters tall and weighs 72 kilograms. He is now 19 years old. I believe everyone has realized that he is not a person from this world. Yes, he is a 26-year-old unemployed wanderer from the 21st century on Earth. I was wrong, it should be said that it is the online game gold farmer profession that is correct. After all, the world that Yen Tailong did not travel through was an era of technological explosion, which led to most of their physical and simple skills being replaced by intelligent robots. Even if most people had jobs, they only needed to work 24 hours a week, which resulted in many people having a lot of time for entertainment. As a result, a large number of entertainment companies emerged in their world, and the biggest profit here belonged to gaming companies. At that time on Earth, there was a well-known Filongjiu game company in China that made a semi-finished online game called Starry Universe World. However, competition among various game companies was fierce at that time. In order to not be forgotten by players in this competition, Filongjiu Game Company modified the Starry Universe World they were currently producing and turned it into a single-player game. Special codes were set in the game for direct release. Just to make Filongjiu Game Company, they didn't expect their game to be so popular, constantly updating and strengthening the content of Starry World under the drive of profit. Originally, Yen Tailong was struggling to get through the 10th boss in Star World at home. He slept because of fatigue and wanted to watch the rewards when he woke up tomorrow morning. He found himself inexplicably in Guyu town. At that time, after a period of beggar life, he found that the world was almost identical to the Star World map of Filongjiu Game Company. The difference from the game is the characters, whether it's the king of the Flying Lion Kingdom or the mayor of the upcoming town of Furu, these famous figures are all different from the game characters. Upon arriving in the foreign world, Yen Tailong discovered that his body had returned to its original state when he was 16 years old. It was only after living in the foreign world for a period of time that he realized that he had a game system and, like the optional appearance protagonist in the game, had a full 5-star talent, as well as legendary full attribute Duki and legendary full attribute meditation. However, the growth attributes of the two skills were very low, to the point where the 5-star talent growth attributes were the same as those of the 1-star talent ordinary non-attribute Duki and meditation, and he was unable to learn other Duki and meditation. It is said that the game company deliberately suppressed the protagonist's growth talents to allow players to experience other aspects of the game. However, he did not expect that the game setting would be the same in reality. Due to the difficulty of training the game protagonist, he is just a living allowance. Yen Tailong, after living in a different world for 3 years, can be said to have learned a lot of life skills like the protagonist in the game. Due to his dragon blood relationship, his own strength has reached 3 stars. Of course, for him who is currently 3 stars, he is the weakest. Firstly, introduce the main attributes. 2.5 stars. Strength, physical killing power, chi growth attribute, 3 stars. Endurance, vitality, life recovery, strength recovery, and defense, 1.5 stars. Agility, move to speed and attack speed, with added evasion in the game, 3.5 stars. Wisdom, understand all skill probabilities and successful handling of things, 2 stars. Spiritual power, magic attack and magic recovery, 1 star. Charm, ordinary appearance, 2 stars. Experience. Combat attributes. 3. Star. Actual combat, 2. Star. One-handed sword, 1. Star. Two-handed sword, 1. Star. Dual-wielded sword, 1. Star. Wind magic, and 3. Star. Theft. Combat skill. 4. Star. Beginner basic swordsmanship, increase all swordsmanship power by 1% to 5%, can be taught. 3. Star. Intermediate basic swordsmanship, increase all swordsmanship power by 2% to 10%, requires 2. Star. Beginner basic swordsmanship can be learned, can be taught, 2. Star. Intermediate body method. Wind feather drifting step, increases movement speed by 10% to 50%, increases evasion in the game. Wind attribute fighting spirit increases by 15% to 75%, can be taught. 3.5 stars. Beginner single-handed swordsmanship. Shield swordsmanship, increases damage by 7% to 35% and increases shield defense block probability by 3% to 15%, 2 stars. Intermediate single-handed swordsmanship. Wind feather swordsmanship increases damage by 15% to 75% and attack speed by 3% to 15%. Wind attribute Duki. Increases damage by 20% to 100% and attack speed by 5% to 25%. If you learn wind feather drifting step, your attack and movement speed will increase by 1% to 5%. When you reach 3 stars, you can increase the damage and attack speed of all wind-style single-handed swordsmanship by 10% and 5%. Learning requirement. 2 stars. Basic single-handed swordsmanship, can be taught. 2. Star. Beginner two-handed swordsmanship. Gravity swordsmanship, increases damage by 30% to 150%, has a certain probability of repelling enemies with strength lower than oneself, can be taught, 2. Star. Beginner dual-wielding swordsmanship. Second stage swordsmanship, increases damage by 3% to 15% and attack speed by 5% to 25%, can be taught, 3. Star. Treasure level thief. Flying detective, stealing 15% to 40% of items from a frontal combat character, stealing 60% to 95% of items from a person without both sides, can be taught, 2. Star. Treasure level thief. Environment hiding technique, disguise as surrounding environment to scam enemy's sight without moving, can be taught, 3. Star. Treasure level thief. Stealth with light steps. When moving at a speed of no more than 60% to 120%, enemies will not be able to see directly. Special note. Beware of enemies paying attention to their feet during the day and under the full moon. Can be taught, 2. Star. Beginner wind magic. Wind blade, increases damage by 20% to 100%, can be taught, 2. Star. Beginner wind magic. Wind feathers, increase movement ability by 10% to 50% over a period of time, can be taught, special awakening skill. Dragon eye, also known as true eye. Able to see through all illusions and has a certain probability of learning target skills and casting spells, cannot be taught. 1 star. Legendary all attribute Duki. Increases strength, endurance, and agility by 50% to 250%. Note: all Duki skills can be used. Due to the special nature of Duki, the amount of collected Duki is very rare, making it very difficult to practice it to the top level. Exclusive Duki for the protagonist, cannot be taught at Guyu reading www.uyukangshu.net, 1 star. Legendary all attribute meditation. Increases mental power by 50% to 250% and magic reserves by 100% to 500%. Note: can use all magic. Due to the special nature of meditation, collecting magic is very rare, making it very difficult to practice to the top level. Exclusive meditation for the protagonist, cannot be taught. Finally, let's introduce our own characteristics. Quickly mastering the ability to quickly learn skills and elevate them to the highest level. XXX Dragon Bloodline, high purity. People with dragon bloodline have stronger growth and recovery abilities than ordinary people in terms of strength, endurance, speed, and spiritual power, as well as immunity to a small portion of toxins. Lust, influenced by dragon blood. No explanation. Collection, dragon blood influence. The dragon blood shadow has caused the protagonist to have a strong desire to collect valuable things, and it is as difficult to take his collection from him as it is to take a gold coin under the dragon's nose. Life allowance. 0.5 stars. Tailor, 2 stars. Blacksmith, 1.5 stars. Digging medicine, 3 stars. Pharmacist, 1.5 stars. Fishing, 1 star. Logging, 1 star. Mining, 0.5 stars. Building, 1 star. Enchanting, 1 star. Planting, all, 2 stars. Painting, 0 stars. Sculpture, 1 star. Magic formation, 0 stars. Domestication, 2 stars. Hunting, involving tracking and discovering enemy traces, etc. There are too many life skills for the protagonist, so I will introduce them here. I will cover them in the content in the future. The task of escorting Guyu town at the E. level of Haosho Tavern. Please gather here as soon as you receive the task. We are about to depart. As Yen Tailong waited for the task to gather, he heard someone shouting from the large tree on the left side of the entrance to the Platinum Stroll Fortress. Finally here. Yen Tailong muttered to himself when he heard the merchants shout and walked towards the mission location. Chapter 3. Green Skin Appears. The First Edition. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Here. This is my task scroll, Yen Tailong said as he approached the task publisher and handed his task scroll to them. No problem, this is your task deposit. I hope you can protect our caravan well. The merchant looked at Yen Tailong's task scroll and confirmed that there was no problem. He then took out 2 silver coins and the task scroll from his wallet and handed them to Yen Tailong Dao. The people of the caravan waited for a while longer before loudly saying, "My last reminder, how called the tavern E. level escort to Guyu town. Please gather here quickly. Please wait a moment. We are the adventurers who have received the E. level escort from Howling Tavern to Guyu town." Just as the merchant finished shouting, a mature female voice shouted. "Ha, this is our mission scroll." The 2 of them, wearing grey windbreakers and wearing their heads, rushed up to the merchant and handed him 2 scrolls. I didn't expect anyone else to take on this task besides me. It seems that these 2 people don't know the newbies escorting the market in Guyu town. Yen Tailong watched as the 2 people wearing windbreakers handed over the task scroll to the merchant. He never thought that those two people would go to Guyu town and take on the task like him. Aunt Lan, we haven't completed the task yet, why did they give us money? The mysterious person next to the mature woman, who received 2 silver coins from the merchant, suppressed his voice and asked his companions in confusion. And Yen Tiexiong happened to hear the mysterious person thinking directly to himself, "You're really a beginner." Lion T's Lion Te Alia. An important leading actress is a customary escort mission. We adventurers who originally received a deposit still have some time to purchase equipment, but now we are late and the caravan is about to depart, so we will definitely not be given this time anymore. The mature woman known as Lan Yi explained to her niece. Aunt Lan, are these merchants not afraid that we will run away once we receive the money? Shite asked Aunt Lan. Hee, Shite, have you forgotten the adventure badge we just registered? The person known as Lan Yi asked her niece. Can registering our adventure badge, Aunt Lan, guarantee our escape? Lion Te asked Aunt Lan. Of course, if you register an adventure badge at the tavern and then receive a deposit without completing the mission, it will be a great blow to your reputation. In the future, it will be difficult for you to receive the mission if you want to, because everyone no longer trusts you. Therefore, when adventurers and mercenaries receive the mission, they will do their best to complete it. Lan explained to her niece. So it's like this, I didn't expect adventurers to be so interesting. Lion Te suddenly realized and exclaimed excitedly. Uncle Chemidus. Time's up, we should set off now, shouted the young businessman who was checking Yen Tailong's mission scroll to the leading MLU beast cart. Yen Tailong was suddenly surprised when he heard the young merchant shouting, and looked at the leader of the caravan, the MLU beast chariot. When he saw the middle-aged man with the MLU beast chariot exposed, he shouted, "It's really Uncle Chemidus." Xiaonan, since that's the case, let's go. Chemidus instructed the young businessman. At the same time, he seemed to suddenly notice Yen Tailong and smiled, saying, "Hey, Tailong. I didn't expect us to meet again. Are you also taking on the task I posted? That's really great." Yen Tailong looked at Chemidus, who had intentionally made an unexpected expression. He wanted to walk in front of him and punched him hard, but he still held back. His mouth twitched and he said, "Uncle Chemidus, you don't have to pretend. I didn't say I took your escort mission from start to finish, and your companion didn't tell you who took it just now." When Chemidus saw the twitching expression on Yen Tailong's face, he knew he had anger in his heart and said somewhat disappointed, "Tailong, I wanted to give you an unexpected surprise, but I didn't expect you to have even a little humor and emotion. It's really disappointing." Upon hearing Chemidus's words, Yen Tailong's expression suddenly changed, making him feel very friendly. He quickly approached the Chemidus MLU beast cart and his tone became pitiful and pleasing, saying, "Uncle Chemidus, the boy hasn't had a good time in the past 2 years. Now he can only eat black bread and water. Why don't you give me 20 or 30 silver coins as compensation for your escort mission, even if you pity me?" Chemidus was caught off guard by Yen Tailong's sudden transformation, but he quickly reacted and changed from a charitable expression to a roaring one, saying, "Damn it, don't pretend to be pitiful with me. The commission is as much as it is written in the task scroll, and I won't give you an extra penny." Yen Tailong wiped the saliva off his face with a look of disgust and regret, saying, "If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have taken on this mission. I don't know what I can buy with 10 silver coins. 10 silver coins can't buy anything, but at least it won't starve you to death in a short period of time," said Chemidus with a pleased smile upon hearing Yen Tailong's words. Chemidus smiled smugly for a while, and when he saw Yen Tailong with a regretful expression, he remembered how he had almost understood nothing back then, and even boasted that he was a poor beggar who was a savior. He sighed and said, "You stinky kid, you're still the same as before. Come up and tell Uncle how you've been these 2 years. Uncle Chemidus, you're just like before, you haven't changed at all, you're still so stingy." Yen Tailong said and got on the MLU beast cart. Yen Tailong and Chemidus suddenly interacted, causing those who knew Commodus and the two who took the task to look puzzled. However, when Yen Tailong got on the MLU beast car, he knew he was about to leave. Divide into parts and prepare to start on the road. When the caravan walked the main road for 3 hours, Yen Tailong recounted to Commodus what had happened to him in the MLU beast cart during this period. So, Tailong, you have been studying in the Xuedi Dixie city, which is known as the City of Wisdom, for the past 2 years. Do you have any plans to come back this time? Commodus asked when he heard Yen Tailong talk about the situation in the past 2 years. The life in Dixie City, Xuedi in the past 2 years has made me fully realize that a person's power is really too small, so I plan to form a mercenary corps that belongs to me when I come back this time, Yen Tailong answered with ambition. Iron Dragon, why don't you form a mercenary army in Xuedi Dixie City? You should know that there are many new people who want to take risks in Xuedi Dixie City every year, and it is very easy to hire mercenaries and adventurers there. Why come to Guyu town? Commodus asked with some confusion when he heard that Yen Tailong was going back to Guyu town to form mercenaries. Hi. Yen Tailong sighed and said, I can indeed recruit many like-minded partners in Xuedi Dixie City, but unfortunately, I can't support a team there. Commodus heard Yen Tailong's tone of helplessness and asked in confusion, well, why is this? Yen Tailong's expression relaxed when he heard Commodus ask a question and said, Uncle Commodus, most of the tasks in Xuedi Dixie City and surrounding small towns and villages are monopolized by famous mercenary groups and guilds, and the rest is leftover food. It's already good enough to support oneself, let alone a team. Upon hearing Yen Tailong's words, Commodus said seriously, Tailong, you should know that the competition in Guyu town is more intense. Don't think that returning to Guyu town can support the mercenary team. Yen Tailong's eyes lit up as he looked at Commodus and said, Hee, Uncle Commodus, isn't there still you? As the owner of Green Yuqian Tavern, one of the 3 major taverns in Guyu town, it should be easy for me to support a mercenary army. Humph. Commodus snorted coldly and said, Iron Dragon, don't think it's related to me. I will take special care of you. If you want to organize a mercenary corps, I will treat you like other mercenary corps. Yen Tailong laughed and said, Hee, Uncle Commodus, this is the best way. Competition is the key to growth. As long as you treat every mercenary group fairly, it will be the greatest help for me. By the way, besides you, who else is Iron Dragon? Commodus suddenly remembered and asked. Upon hearing Commodus's words, Yen Tailong looked a bit lonely and said, originally, there were 3 friends with good skills and like-minded interests who were willing to come with me. Unfortunately, they suddenly separated from me halfway through, and now I am the only one left. Oh. So, when you go to Guyu town, the first thing you do is recruit partners, right? Commodus heard Yen Tailong's lonely tone and asked. Yen Tailong nodded and responded, not bad. When Commodus saw Yen Tailong nodding and responding, he said, since Tailong is looking for a partner, I have a good candidate on my end that I can recommend to you. And when Yen Tailong heard Commodus's words, he showed a worried and skeptical expression and said, Uncle Commodus, won't you introduce some new people and let me help you train them? Commodus looked at Yen Tailong's expression and became a bit angry, saying, I really recommend a very talented young man this time. It's not the newcomers you need to train. That person does have some problems, but he is suitable for you now. As for whether you want to take him or not, it's your question. Oh. That's interesting. Since Uncle Commodus recommended me, I want to take a good look at that person. Yen Tailong suddenly stopped halfway through the conversation. Commodus saw Yen Tailong's expression and asked. So, Iron Dragon. Yen Tailong looked into the distance and said to the nearby Commodus, Uncle Commodus, regarding the personnel you recommended, we will talk later. Let's prepare for the battle now. While Commodus was still puzzled by Yen Tailong's words, he saw 1 or 2 plants standing about 1 meter tall in the grass ahead of the road, covered in green food, and cursed inwardly, damn it, little green skin. Little Green Skin. Its full name is Green Skin Little Ghost. This creature is a brand new creature that was born in ancient times when a deity was bored and hybridized with a goblin. This creature not only inherited the goblin's green body, but also inherited the amazing reproductive ability of the goblin. However, this creature has low intelligence and has been in the Stone Age. The deity who created it has used many methods but cannot change the wisdom of the green skin little ghost. Finally, the deity gave up this race directly. Green Skin Little Ghost. Belongs to omnivorous food. As long as you can bite and move, almost anything can be eaten. Personality. Timid, likes to live in groups. Adult height generally ranges from 0.8 to 1.2 meters. Incubating from an egg takes 2 years to reach adulthood, producing 3.8 eggs at a time and producing 3.5 times a year. This type of organism has a lifespan of approximately 10.15 years, with some exceptions, as introduced in later novels. Lastly, an ordinary adult who knows nothing about martial arts can single out 1.3 green skin Pokémon. Commodus stopped and loudly reminded his companions behind him, "Everyone prepare for battle, there is little green skin ahead." Chapter 4. Green Skin Appears. Xia. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. A dozen or so guards from the caravan hurriedly ran to a position 3 meters in front of Yan Tielong's MLU beast cart to make a defensive posture. However, when Commodus saw that Yan Tailong was about to get off, he waved his hand and stopped him, saying, "Iron Dragon, these little green skins should be left to that young man to handle. You can stay to prevent accidents." Yan Tailong was stopped by Commodus and at the same time heard his words. He guessed and asked, "Uncle Commodus, are those guards new people in Guyu town who have not seen blood?" Commodus nodded and admitted, "Not bad. But, Uncle Commodus, can you really be sure that those newcomers can beat so much little green skin?" Yan Tailong asked, pointing to the appearance of 30 or 40 Pai Pai Xiaogui from the grass, and the Pai Pai Xiaogui constantly appearing from the grass. Iron Dragon, you've forgotten that you're not the only one on my escort mission this time." Commodus reminded, pointing to one of the 2 people who took on the escort mission earlier, who had already arrived at the young adventurer of women with those newcomers. "Uncle Commodus, don't expect him anymore. Don't look at him wearing knightly armor, he's actually a newcomer, and the other one is an old hand, but he didn't play." Yan Tailong watched as the young man in women took off his coat and exposed his entire metal knightly armor, while the other woman who couldn't see her clearly due to the coat's obstruction didn't show any intention of helping them, so he reminded Commodus. It seems that I'm lucky this time to have recruited 3 experts." Commodus said happily upon hearing Yan Tielong's words. Yan Tailong heard Commodus's words and asked with confusion and surprise, "3 experts? Uncle Commodus, are you joking?" Commodus smiled at Yan Tailong and said, "Tailong, you are still too young. You should know that the old hand you mentioned stayed behind and did not take action, which shows her confidence in the strength of her companions. I think the young man wearing knight armor must be very strong. Maybe he can solve these little green skins alone in a moment, and then you don't need to take action at all." Yan Tailong smiled when he heard Commodus's words and said, You don't need me to take action. That's really great. I've been on the road these days, so I need to rest well." While Yan Tailong was talking to Commodus, the green-skinned little ghost gathered around 50 and charged towards the 30 or so new caravan guards and young men wearing knightly armor in front of the army. More than a dozen new caravan guards saw the green-skinned ghost charging towards them. Although they were prepared, they were all very nervous, and even a few of them began to take a step back in fear. At this moment, a young man wearing knightly armor in women noticed this situation and came to the front of the guards, cheering loudly at the voices of more than a dozen new guards. "Everyone, these little green skins can even kill a child. If you retreat and run away, aren't you not afraid of being ridiculed by the world as cowardly as a child? If you don't want to be ridiculed, pick up the courage to fight with me." More than a dozen new guards heard the young man wearing knight armor and felt very reasonable. No one stepped back and grabbed their weapons to look at the rushing green-skinned ghost, preparing to defend against the first wave of impact. Yen Tailong sighed and said, "The newcomers are really passionate. It's so easy to be inspired by words with no practical benefits. Iron Dragon, not everyone is as demanding of money as you are." Commodus said in a dissatisfied tone when he heard Yen Iron Dragon's words. "Cut it. Uncle Commodus, come on, my habit of asking for money is like learning from you. You should know back then." Yen Tailong continued on. But Commodus didn't listen and interrupted when Yen Tailong was about to rise. "How impressive. He is indeed a master. His strength is quite good, but he is indeed a beginner." Yen Tailong was interrupted by Commodus and did not get angry. When he saw the expert mentioned by Commodus, he noticed that the young man in knightly armor, women, led a dozen new guards to carry the first wave of little green skin assault and nodded. Commodus watched as Yen Tailong successfully diverted his attention to the dozen new guards and young people wearing knight armor who were fighting against the green-skinned little ghost and didn't know their appearance. He instinctively wiped his sweatless forehead and thought to himself, "This kid is getting more and more slippery." Yen Tailong saw the young man wearing knightly armor in female, surrounded by 5 green-skinned little ghosts, and the young man named Liante in female, did not hesitate to stab the forehead of the nearest green-skinned little ghost, causing the other 4 green-skinned little ghosts to watch their companions die and flee in fear. Liante young man did not pursue the fleeing green-skinned little ghost, but was very cautious and looked at the other green-skinned little ghosts around him. He shook his head and whispered, "It seems like he's fighting against the little green-skinned little ghost for the first time. He gave up such a good opportunity to continue chasing." Yen Tailong saw more than 10 newcomers guarding against over 30 green-skinned little ghosts at the same time. Although there were no casualties, there were defensive loopholes, and he said to the nearby Commodus, "Uncle Commodus, the newcomers in Guyu town are getting weaker and weaker. Why is there such a poor sense of cooperation?" Upon hearing Yen Tailong's words, Commodus smiled and said, "Tailong, I remember when you came to Guyu town for the first time to hunt, you were very embarrassed by a forest wolf in the end. If it weren't for someone's help, you would have almost been bitten to death by a forest wolf. Uncle Commodus, it seems that the young man wearing knight armor who took on your mission this time is a nobleman." Yen Tailong heard Commodus' words as if he hadn't heard them, pointing to the young man wearing knight armor rushing to the front and changing the topic. "Oh. Tailong, how do you know he's a nobleman?" Commodus asked curiously when he heard Yen Tailong's words. "His swordsmanship," Yen Tailong said directly. "Can you confirm that he is a nobleman based on his swordsmanship?" Commodus asked incredulously upon hearing Yen Tailong's words. "Fiki Te noble swordsmanship, advanced single-handed swordsmanship. Increases damage by 25% to 100%. Increases parry probability by 10% to 30%. Increases attack speed by 3% to 15%. This swordsmanship is the signature swordsmanship of the Fiki Te Noble Academy in Dixie City, and only students from the Fiki Te Noble Academy can use it. Moreover, that school only recruits nobles, so I say he is a nobleman," explained Yen Tailong. "He, Iron Dragon cannot be a nobleman with just one set of swordsmanship. You know, many people can learn this set of swordsmanship in other ways," said Commodus. Upon hearing Commodus's words, Yen Tailong smiled and said, Swordsmanship routines can indeed be learned from other places, but the knight armor on that young man's body confirms that he is a nobleman." Upon hearing Yen Tailong's words, Commodus looked back at the young man wearing knight armor and said, Tailong, the armor that the young man is wearing is not particularly special. It seems that Uncle Commodus, your gaze is getting worse and worse. You are carefully looking at the armor on his left neck." Yen Tailong pointed to his neck and said to Commodus. Commodus looked at the young man wearing knight armor and accidentally said to Yen Tailong, pointing to the neck armor, "That's a noble pattern. Not bad. That pattern was also something I just noticed, but Uncle Commodus, your 10 silver coins are not enough for me to equip for this maintenance, said Yen Tailong. Howl. Yen Tailong and his team thought there was no suspense as they finished cleaning up the little green-skinned ghosts and suddenly heard a howl. Uncle Commodus, it's big green skin. And it's three-headed. Yen Tailong heard the howling sound and quickly looked towards the direction of the howling sound. When he saw that the three-headed creatures were about 2 meters tall and looked very strong and green, like some rough orcs holding big wooden sticks, he frowned and reminded them. Big green skin. The full name is green skin horn-toothed beast, and they have no relation to orcs. This kind of creature, like the green skin ghost, is a masterpiece created by the same ancient deity during your boring period. It is also low intelligence and has a blood relationship with the green-skinned ghost. This type of creature raises the green-skinned little devil as a domestic animal and servant, because the evaluation of wealth and status in their population depends on how many green-skinned little ghosts they have. Of course, if they do not eat meat for a long time, they will use the green-skinned little devil as meat and food, which also ensures that the green-skinned little devil does not become rampant. The reason why he is called the green-skin horn beast is because his 2 teeth are exposed outside the mouth and sharp like the horns of some animals. It belongs to omnivorous and tends to be carnivorous. Personality. Fierce and combative. They often engage in internal conflicts due to the allocation of ownership to the green-skin Pokémon, which leads to a balance in their numbers. Otherwise, the human world would have been destroyed by them long ago. Adult height is 2.3 meters. Fetal birth takes 10 years to reach adulthood, with only 1 child born each year, resulting in 1.3 offspring. The lifespan of this organism is generally 50 years. They are naturally strong warriors, and they need to deal with at least 3.5 well-trained and coordinated soldiers who are at least capable of dealing with an adult green-horned beast without armor. Damn it, how could there be a big green skin? Commodus saw the green-skin horned beast appear and cursed inwardly, then asked Yen Tailong, Tailong left those green-skin horned beasts to you. Is there a problem? Of course not a problem. 2 years ago I might have had some difficulty dealing with 3 heads alone, but now it's a very easy thing for me, said Yen Tailong confidently. Commodus looked at the confident expression of Yen Tailong and said, then please do it. Spirit of the wind, please lend your power to me in Wind Feather. Yen Tailong unleashed a subsidy wind magic on himself. I didn't expect Iron Dragon to learn magic. It seems like something I've learned in the book Flag Dishy City in the past 2 years. Commodus thought to himself when he heard Yen Iron Dragon recite a spell and saw him quickly form a magic formation. At the same time, the woman who had just been by Yen Tailong in his MLU beast carriage, unaware of her resemblance, quickly rushed towards the 3 green-skin horned beasts. The young man wearing knight armor was repelled by one of the 3 green-skin horned beasts with a wooden stick, and then fell into a fierce battle and quickly went to support them. Chapter 5. Solving Green Skin. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yen Tailong unleashed a subsidy spell on herself, seeing a female adventurer on the battlefield using a whip to rescue her partner from a dangerous situation, which also led her to be trapped in the pincer attack of 2 green-horned beasts and into a bitter battle. Iron Dragon, that female adventurer is a beautiful woman. Commodus saw the female adventurer being swept off her head by the green-skin horn beast's big stick, revealing her beautiful golden hair and exquisite face. He said to Yen Tailong beside him and turned his head to look at him, only to find that his figure was no longer there. Yen Tailong quickly rushed towards the side of the female adventurer being sandwiched by 2 green-skinned horned beasts with wind feather floating steps. Unfortunately, as he passed through the battle circle of more than a dozen new guards, he was suddenly blocked by a green-skinned little ghost. The impatient Yen Tailong kicked him away and said, "Don't get in the way, get out of my way." The new guards around saw Yen Tailong so easily solving the green-skinned little ghost, and they were a bit stunned. they couldn't help but give Yen Tailong an unobstructed path. Yen Tailong quickly approached the female adventurer, and before she could react, she blocked the green-skinned horned beast that was hitting her with a baton. At the same time, there was still enough energy to urge the female adventurer, saying, "Beautiful lady, my name is Yen Tailong, and I am a deep adventurer. I wonder if I can invite you to have a drink when I arrive in Guyu town later." The adventurer named Lan Yi, a young man wearing knight armor, was very surprised when Yen Tailong suddenly appeared and helped him block the attack of the green-skin horn-toothed beast. Before Aunt Lan's adventurer could answer Yen Tailong's invitation, the young man wearing knight armor behind her loudly rejected Yen Tailong and said, "How could a rude adventurer like you provoke my Aunt Lan? Kid. It's this beautiful woman I invited, not you. Even if you know him well, it's this beautiful woman who ultimately decides whether or not to accept my invitation, not you." Yen Tailong used his sword to block the green-horned beast's big stick, while still having a leisurely attitude towards the young man wearing knight armor. "Lion Special. And Your Excellency, there's something to talk about in the battle now." The adventurer named Lan Yi, who was armored by a young knight, dodged the baton of the green-skin horn beast and shouted loudly, "Since the beauty has spoken, then please leave me, you troublemakers." Yen Tailong's eyes became sharp as he heard the beauty adventurer's words and said to the green-skin horn-toothed beast, who was fighting against him, "Ah!" Yen Tailong roared and increased his sword strength, breaking away from the green-skin horn-toothed beast that was stronger than him. Before the green-skin horn-toothed beast could stand firm, Yen Tailong pursued it with wind-feather sword technique, and before the green-skin horn-toothed beast could react, he was split in two by Yen Tailong's sword from his waist. Wind Blade. At the same time, Yen Tailong's attack did not end. Before splitting the green-skin horn-tooth into two sections, he had already silently recited a wind magic spell. After splitting the green-skin horn-tooth beast in front of him into two sections, he directly released the wind magic with his left hand, releasing more than 10 wind blades that accurately passed behind a young man wearing knight armor and shot at the neck of another green-skin horn-tooth beast without any armor. The green-skin horn-toothed beast was hit by the Yen Iron Dragon wind blade in the neck area, directly causing the blood veins in its neck to be cut off. The green-skin horn-toothed beast was in pain and covered its wound with its own hand to prevent the flow of green blood. Unfortunately, it was no longer effective and could not stop bleeding. In the end, it fell down and died from excessive bleeding. The last green-horned beast saw its companion being quickly dealt with by a human, and its body trembled with a roar before quickly turning around and running away. "You think you can still run away? Go die for me." Yen Tailong saw the last green-skin horned beast running away without looking back, so he picked up the big wooden stick beside the dead green-skin horned beast and threw it directly at the fleeing green-skin horned beast. I don't know if it was the luck of the green-skin horned beast or if Yen Tailong's hit rate was too high. Yen Tailong's big wooden stick perfectly hit the back of the green-skin horned beast's head. After being hit, the green-skin horned beast ran forward 2 steps and collapsed to death. Yen Tailong looked at the fallen green-skin horn-toothed beast and walked up to him. With a single sword, he beheaded the unknown green-skin horn-toothed beast and said, "Repairing the sword afterwards is very important. Now we have 1 or 2 months of living expenses. You bloodthirsty maniac. It no longer has combat ability, why do you still want to kill it?" As Yen Tailong walked towards the blonde beauty, a young man wearing knightly armor called "Women" asked Yen Tailong in a tone of dissatisfaction and questioning as he passed by her. Yen Tailong stopped and looked deeply at the young man wearing knightly armor when he heard the question from the woman. He said, "Kid, have you read too many knightly novels? And I don't think you are suitable here. Returning to your big city and continuing to be your nobleman is the right choice for you. I want to duel with you." The young man in knight armor, "Woman," was angry when he heard Yen Tailong's words. He took off his gloves and threw them at Yen Tailong, shouting loudly, "Hee hee, when will you deal with 3 or more green-skinned horned beasts alone? Come and duel with me. I'm not interested in ravaging rookies, but a noble young man like you with pure white hands should not be able to reach that level. Yen Tailong picked up the armored gloves on the ground and paid attention to the white and flawless hands of the young man wearing knightly armor in Women. He smiled and threw the gloves back to the young man wearing knightly armor in Women. You. The young man in knightly armor looked at Yen Tailong passing by with nothing to say. After all, she also knew that her strength was inferior to the rude adventurer in front of her. Yen Tailong suddenly saw an unknown small red flower on the ground and picked it directly before the beautiful adventurer. He handed the small red flower to the adventurer and said, "Madam, this flower is very suitable for you. I hope you like it." "Thank you." The young woman named Lan Yi, who is dressed in knight armor and known by women, took the little red flower and gently sniffed it, showing a smile and thanking her. Yen Tailong saw the beautiful woman in front of him with a brilliant smile on his face. A wolf appeared in his heart and kept shouting at him. He looked very gentlemanly and asked the woman in front of him, "Beautiful lady, I don't know what I just proposed. Would you be willing to accept my invitation?" "Sorry. I'm not interested in immature boys, thank you for the flowers." Lan Yi, known as Lan Yi by a young man wearing knight armor, looked at Yen Tailong's very gentlemanly expression and said seriously. She returned the little red flower to Yen Tailong's hand, then left and walked towards the convoy. Iron Dragon. Iron Dragon. And when Yen Tailong heard the words of his beloved beauty, his heart was shattered to the ground. At the same time, his appearance was shattered like petrification, and he maintained his just movements. Even when Comedian ran to his side and called his name, he didn't listen. "I deserve it," said the young man in knightly armor, gloating as he passed by Yen Tailong's side. "Xiao Nan. Help me bring the water bag over," Commodus shouted to his teammates in the convoy without any response, no matter how he called. "Uncle Commodus, your water bag." The young man named Xiaonan picked up the water bag from the Commodus MLU beast cart and quickly approached Commodus, handing it over to him. "Uncle Commodus, what's wrong with him?" asked the young man in Xiaonan, pointing at Yen Tailong who was motionless. Commodus opened the water bag and heard Xiaonan's question. "Ah, he just made an old mistake. Just wait a moment and it will be fine." "So, Uncle Commodus." Commodus took a big sip of water and sprayed it at the statue's Yen Tailong. Yen Tailong woke up and looked at Commodus in front of him and asked. Commodus looked at Yen Tailong, whether he was clear or confused, and said directly, "Has Tailong been clear? If he is clear, don't be in a daze here. We should start now." "Oh, I'll come," Yen Tailong replied in a daze. "Here. This is your spoils of war," said Commodus to the cloth bag that oozed green blood as Yen Tailong boarded the MLU beast chariot. "The spoils of war." Yen Tailong opened the bag in confusion. "Here, these are the horns of the green-skin horned beast." Yen Tailong looked at the 6 teeth in the bag that were still carrying green blood. "Well, I asked someone to help you take these down. Did you get rejected again?" Commodus asked while driving the MLU beast cart. "Uncle Commodus, do you think I'm really immature at all?" Yen Tailong tied his bag and asked when he heard Commodus's question. Commodus listened to Yen Tailong's question and carefully looked at him, saying, "Tailong, why do you ask that?" Yen Tailong looked a bit awkward and said, "Someone just said I'm not mature, so I want to ask if I'm really that immature." "Hee, did that blonde beauty say that to you just now?" Commodus suddenly smiled and asked when he heard Yen Tailong's words. Yen Tailong nodded and responded, "Yes." "What did she say about me?" "Tailong, don't worry about that girl's words. You should enjoy your youth well, not care about whether you are mature. You should know that time cannot be reversed. Maturity will become more mature as you age, and you will also become more mature. Like uncle, I envy your youthful vigor very much, and I think sometimes Iron Dragon's maturity doesn't match your age. Commodus smiled and advised. Uncle Commodus, thank you for opening up. I'm much better now, Yen Tailong said forcefully, but he thought to himself, what's wrong with my body now? You know, I was already 26 years old before I crossed this world. I've been in a different world for 3 years now, and I'm really 29 years old. But no one would believe it when I say it based on my appearance, which is now 19 years old. Ailan. You have another despicable person worshipping under your pomegranate skirt. At the same time, a young man wearing knight armor in a MLU beast carriage behind Yen Tailong in his MLU beast carriage excitedly said to his Ailan. Hee, if Shite takes off your helmet, with your charm, I guarantee that the swordsman just now will also worship under your pomegranate skirt. Ailan smiled and said to her niece. Humph. I don't want that despicable guy to bow down under my skirt. The young man in knightly armor snorted coldly. Oh my, how did that swordsman offend our little beauty? Even now, he hasn't calmed down. Can you tell Ailan? Ailan smiled at her niece and asked. Humph. It's not that despicable guy who didn't listen to my kind reminder and even killed the green-skin horned beast that has lost its combat ability, exclaimed the young man in knight armor. Woman. Shite, are you sure you want that swordsman not to attack the fainting green-skin horned beast? Ailan asked with a serious expression that changed from a smile when she heard her niece's words. Wearing knightly armor, the young man in women was a bit puzzled as Ailan's expression changed, but she still said angrily, I said that, but that despicable guy still said that I'm not suitable here and asked me to return to the big city to continue being a noble young master. It's really annoying. Shite, that swordsman is right. If you're thinking so simply, I'll take you back, said Ailan, looking at her niece very seriously. Ailan even said that to you. The young man in knightly armor, woman, looked at his Ailan in surprise and couldn't believe it. Chapter 6. The Charm of Sydney Elaine. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hi. Shady Ailan looked at her niece with a hint of helplessness and sighed, his tone becoming more serious than ever before. I thought this trip would allow you to experience a different life from the academy and castle, so that you could know more about the outside world. But my idea is too simple. Shite, you haven't experienced the cruelty of the outside world and have been protected by everyone. It's too simple. You actually let that swordsman let go of the green-skin horn beast, you know. Why did our flying dragon kingdom build the Platinum Stro fortress? When there was no Castellan fortress, the green-skin horned beast would often run into the land belonging to the flying dragon kingdom and attack villages and cities. It would pick up the villagers as their food, and they loved to eat children the most, she continued, shaking her head as she watched the young man in knight armor. Ailan, can't we have a language exchange with those green-skin horned beasts? We can exchange food for peace. The young man in knight armor, woman, was shocked to hear that green-skin horned beasts eat villagers and their favorite children's clothes. He didn't believe that green skin was so savage and proposed his own beautiful plan. The green-skin horn beast is unable to communicate with us humans at all. This is the conclusion drawn by the famous scholars and powerful magicians of the Star Continent who have used various methods to find that they are unable to communicate with the green-skin horn beast in language. Moreover, they have come to another conclusion that the green-skin horn beast loves to eat human meat. Shady Ailan looked at her innocent and ignorant niece with a serious expression, telling her that the green-skin horn beast cannot communicate and that it loves to eat human meat. Ah! The young man wearing knightly armor in women couldn't help but shout out when he heard Ailan's words. The merchant heard the young man in knightly armor shouting from the woman and asked in confusion, "That's it, Your Excellency the adventurer." "Sorry. Just now, my nephew was so surprised when he heard my previous adventure stories that he couldn't help but scream," said Sydney Ailan with a smile as she looked at the injured team member. "So it's like this. Beautiful lady, this is normal. We often hear legendary adventurer accidents and we can't help but sigh and cry out. We just hope that beautiful lady can tell stories during your rest time or in the small town, otherwise we won't be able to bear being surprised by you. The people in the caravan said impatiently when they saw the charming Sydney Elaine. I'm really sorry, we'll take care of it, Sydney Ailan apologized to the caravan. Well, that's good, beautiful lady. If you have anything to do, I can call you Kitumian. The Kitumian merchant stuttered a bit when Aunt Lon apologized sincerely and was confused by her charm. Okay, if I have any trouble, I will definitely come to you. Sydney Ailan politely thanked the Kitumian businessman. Beautiful lady, then I won't disturb you, said the gentleman from the flag picture min merchant to Aunt Lon, and then left the Xuedi Ailan and her MLU beast cart. It was only that the Xuedi Ailan and her companions didn't expect the flag picture min merchant to return to their MLU beast cart to find the desired gift for her. Hee, Aunt Lon is really charming. Someone has fallen under your pomegranate skirt again. The young man in knight armor, the woman, said with envy as he watched the merchant leave and hugged his aunt with a smile. I hope there won't be any more trouble, said Sydney Ailan with a worried expression instead of being as happy as her niece had imagined. It was just that she didn't expect her troubles to just start when she took a break. Not long after, at December 2000, noon, Commodus led the Muru beast convoy to leave the battlefield, which had been an hour away from 10-kilometer road, and stopped to rest. Xuedi Ailan didn't expect that several businessmen and new guards would run to her at the beginning of her break to show their hospitality and bold courtship. Tai Long, that charming and beautiful girl is in trouble now. Why don't you go help her? Commodus smiled as he watched Yan Tixiong forcefully gnaw on the black bread, but his eyes were fixed on the mature and charming Xuedi Ailan. Forget it, I was rejected by some lady earlier, and I don't want to be hot-faced or cold buttocks. Yan Tai Long choked on the words of Commodus and quickly took a sip of water, then said slowly. If Tai Long likes that charming woman so much, you should have a thicker skin and persevere before pursuing her. If you shrink back and look at her here, you may miss out on your good girl because of your timidity. There will be times when you regret it in the future. Commodus encouraged Yan Tai Long and reminded him. Uncle Commodus, you're right. I'm going to launch a love attack on a beautiful woman now. Yan Tai Long heard Commodus' words and felt that they made a lot of sense, so he encouraged himself and decided. Iron Dragon, wait a moment. Commodus called out to Yan Iron Dragon, who was about to come forward to love. Yan Tixiong was stopped by Commodus and asked curiously, Uncle Commodus, what's up with you? Yan Tai Long, don't you still know the name of that sexy beauty? Commodus asked. Yan Tai Long hesitated for a moment and said hesitantly, this. Tai Long, tell uncle honestly, have you ever pursued girls? Commodus asked seriously as he looked at Yan Tixiong, who was hesitant to say anything. How could this be? I have captivated countless girls. How could it be? Alright, Uncle Commodus, you won. I am indeed the first to pursue a girl. Yan Tai Long was originally cunning, but couldn't bear Commodus' serious gaze, so he admitted that this was his first time chasing a girl. Since it's my first time chasing girls, Uncle, I want to teach you some secrets to chasing girls. Commodus told Yan Tai Long about the secrets to chasing girls and winning their hearts. And there were also some things happening on Aunt Lan's side. I don't know what Aunt Lan smiled and said, which caused the people who had just shown their hospitality in front of her to scatter one after another, just like being hit by something. Uncle Commodus, I'm heartbroken. Commodus, who was excitedly telling Yan Tai Long the secret to pursuing girls, was suddenly interrupted by a gloomy tone. Xiaonan, what's wrong with you? Commodus looked towards the direction of the voice, and asked the younger generation of his friend with a dejected expression. By the way, Tai Long is the son of a former good brother named Platinum Eagle Chinan, who is currently helping me in my store, Commodus introduced to Yan Tai Long. Xiaonan, this is Yan Tai Long, whom I often talk to you about. Commodus introduced Yan Tai Long to the depressed Platinum Eagle Flag Nan. So you are the Yen Tailong big brother who has grown very rapidly, as Uncle Kemidus often mentions. Platinum Eagle Flag South came to Yen Tailong with excited words upon hearing Kemidus' introduction. Yen Tailong saw the excitement in the eyes of Platinum Eagle Flag South and rubbed his head with the same expression, saying, "Hee hee, Uncle Kemidus, how surprising is he to praise me." Cough. Cough. Kemidus heard Yen Tailong cough and asked Platinum Eagle Flag South, "Platinum Eagle Flag South, what's wrong with you?" Hi. Platinum Eagle Flag Nan sighed and said when he heard Kemidus asking, "Uncle Kemidus, I was just about to show my love to Miss Xuedi Ailan from her side, but she gave up on her request. So her name is Xuedi Ailan." Xuedi Ailan. Yen Tailong knew from the words of Platinum Eagle Chinan that what he had just said was the name of that mature and charming female adventurer. He kept reciting it silently in his heart, wanting to record this name in his heart. When Kemidus heard the words of Platinum Eagle Flag South and saw Yen Tailong muttering with his head down, he asked, which Xuedi Ailan from Platinum Eagle Flag South proposed what conditions would make you give up without seeking love. Uncle Kemidus, Miss Xuedi Ailan offered 3 conditions. Only when she met these 3 conditions did she agree to have a relationship, and precisely because I may never be able to meet any of these 3 conditions in my lifetime, I gave up directly, said Platinum Eagle Chinan. Oh. Platinum Eagle Flag South, what are the 3 conditions offered by Miss Xuedi Ailan? Kemidus asked again, while Yen Tailong perked up his ears and listened carefully to the 3 conditions offered by Platinum Eagle Flag South. Platinum Eagle Flag South noticed that Yen Tailong appeared indifferent on the surface, but the content in his eyes that he was about to say the conditions offered by Xuedi Ailan was inexplicably hot, and he already understood that Uncle Kemidus was asking for him. He felt a hint of jealousy in his heart, but he smiled and said, "Miss Xuedi Ailan said. The strength of the first high-level warrior." Upon hearing the first point, Yen Tieshong muttered to himself with a relaxed expression, "This is simple. My own strength surpasses that of a high-level warrior." The second point is that Guyu reading www.yuyukeangshu.net must have a noble title. The noble title is not a problem, but it will take some time, Yen Tieshong muttered to himself when he heard the second point. The third point, which I think is the most difficult, is the hero recognized by the kingdom. Uncle Kemidus, how many people in the entire country are recognized heroes by the state? Platinum Eagle Flag South asked Kemidiko after saying 3 requirements. Well, there are only 2 or 3 heroes that can be recognized by the country now, and they are all around 40 years old. It is almost impossible for Miss Xuedi Ailan's demands to be made at the same age. However, it is not too unreasonable to make these demands to a beauty of her level. However, in this way, it should be difficult for her to marry herself. Kemidus nodded and admitted upon hearing the third point. But Yen Tailong felt regretful in his heart. The title of hero, and being recognized by the country, this is not something that can be obtained in a short time. If I had come to this world 10 years earlier, I should have had this title now. Iron Dragon, why don't you give up pursuing Miss Xuedi Ailan? She won't take a liking to us rough people. Kemidus watched as Yen Iron Dragon lowered his head and didn't know what he wanted, so he advised him to give up pursuing Miss Xuedi Ailan. Ah. Uncle Kemidus, I didn't hear what you said earlier. Could you please say it again? Yen Tailong paid too much attention to what he was thinking and didn't hear what Kemidiko was saying before asking. Hee, it's okay if you don't hear it clearly. Kemidus shook his head as he looked at Yen Tailong, who was a bit confused, and then instructed Platinum Eagle Flag South beside him. Now everyone is almost resting. Platinum Eagle Flag South notified everyone to prepare to depart. After a while, the convoy continued to move towards the direction of Guyu town. Chapter 7. Declaration and Goals of Courtship to Xuedi Ailan. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. After walking for 2 hours in Yen Tailong in his MLU Beast convoy, they finally saw the small town gate in front of them, which looked like a small fortress. When entering the ancient feather town, Chemidus said to the shady Ailan beauty adventurer and her niece, presenting the remaining commission in 2 letters proving their completion of the mission, on behalf of the caravan, I am very grateful to you for this escort mission. This letter is proof that you have successfully completed the task this time. You can receive your credit points for completing the task at the Green Feather Chien Tavern, Sword and Shield Tavern, and Rose Gold Red Tavern in Guyu Town. We hope to have the opportunity to cooperate again next time. Xuedi Ailan and her niece received the commission and a letter of gratitude to the adventurer of Chemidi, saying, Your Excellency Chemidus, thank you for taking care of us all the way. We hope to have another opportunity to cooperate. Chemidus bowed back to shady Ailan and finally said to the caravan, disband and go home. Miss Xuedi Ailan, please wait. Xuedi Ailan was about to leave with her niece when she heard Yen Tailong calling out to her. Your Excellency Yen Tailong, may I ask if you have anything to do? Xuedi Ailan asked as she looked at Yen Tailong, who was pulling them towards her. This, me. Yen Tailong hesitated as he looked at the words that made the girl's heart race to his lips. Your Excellency Yen Tailong, if you have nothing to do, then we'll say goodbye first. Xuedi Ailan said directly as she looked at Yen Tailong hesitating. Miss Xuedi Ailan, please give me some time, I will definitely become your hero in your heart. Yen Tailong shouted out with courage when he heard the woman in his heart who made him heart race to leave. Then Yen Tailong walked towards the direction of Green Feather Chien Tavern without looking back, regardless of the 2 of them who were shocked by his method of courtship, as well as the stunned Chemidus and Platinum Eagle flag. Iron Dragon, don't walk so fast, wait for us. Chemidus snapped out of his mind and got on the MLU beast cart, shouting to Yen Iron Dragon in front. Uncle Chemidus, wait for me. Platinum Eagle Banner saluted to Xuedi Ailan and got into his MLU beast car, shouting to Chemidus who didn't care about him. Aunt Lon, that rude guy dares to say such big things in front of you. It's really unbelievable. The young man in knight armor, woman, made a dissatisfied gesture and said, but the expression on his face under the hidden helmet was envy for his aunt. Sydney Ailan looked at her niece and suddenly said seriously, Shite, you must remember that Yen Tailong loudly loved me in such a place. He will definitely take action with my heroic goal in mind. Although I don't know if he can become a hero of the kingdom, I don't allow you to call him in derogatory terms. The young man wearing knightly armor in Women was clearly frightened by what his Aunt Lon said seriously, but she still asked weakly, so, that rude guy Yen Tailong really became a hero in the kingdom. Aunt Lon, do you really want to marry him? Upon hearing her niece's words, Xuedi Ailan smiled and said, Hee, as I mentioned before, I am not interested in immature teenagers, and even if your Excellency Yen Tailong becomes a hero in the kingdom, he cannot become the hero in my heart because I already have one in my heart. The young man wearing knightly armor in The Woman was surprised to hear his Aunt Lan's words and asked a series of questions. Lon, who is the hero in your mind, Aunt Lon? Do I recognize that person? Hee, this is my secret, I won't tell you, said Sydney Ailan with a secret smile at her niece. If Yen Tailong sees the cute expression on Xuedi Ailan now, he will definitely howl. And on Yen Tailong's side, Chemidus drove the MLU beast cart to Yen Tailong's side and asked, Tailong, is what you just said true? Do you want to become a hero of the nobility and the country? Yen Tailong stopped and nodded seriously at Chemidus, admitting. Tailong, do you know that becoming a nobleman is a very difficult task for us commoners, let alone a nationally recognized hero? And didn't you say you wanted to organize a mercenary corps? Do you really have this energy? Chemidus said in a series. Uncle Chemidus organized a mercenary army and there was no conflict with becoming a kingdom hero. Maybe I will really become a kingdom hero in the future. At that time, Uncle Chemidus, you can't be surprised to drop your chin. Yen Tailong confidently said to Chemidus. If there really were a day, I wouldn't be surprised to drop my chin. Instead, I would let everyone know that the heroes of the kingdom were educated by me. Think about how lively my tavern will be then. Chemidus laughed when he heard Yan Tielong's confident words. Hee, Uncle Chemidus will definitely have that day, Yan Tailong said with a smile. By the way, Uncle Chemidus, I don't know if it's my illusion. I feel like everyone in the small town is very strange, but I can't say what's strange. Yan Tailong suddenly asked Chemidus on the MLU beast car. Tailong, you may not have been in Guyu town for 2 years. The changes here make you a bit uncomfortable, right? Chemidus glanced at Yan Tailong and said perfunctorily. Uncle Chemidus insists that I haven't been in Guyu town for 2 years, and there are indeed many people I don't know. However, the residents of the town now give me a strange feeling, not the relaxed and upward feeling I used to have after being reborn. Yan Tailong frowned and said. Iron Dragon, your observation ability is becoming more and more acute, Chemidus praised Yan Iron Dragon. Uncle Chemidus, can you tell me if something is going to happen in the small town? Yan Tailong asked. Iron Dragon, do you know about the green skin invasion? Chemidus asked seriously as he drove the MLU beast car. Green skin invasion. Will there be a green skin invasion this year? Yan Tailong asked in surprise when he heard Chemidus talk about the green skin invasion. Well, as far as I know, there is a high possibility of a green skin invasion this year. After all, it has been 3 years since the last invasion. By the way, when you first arrived in the small town, didn't you think our town was very dilapidated? Now the language of Chemidus is shocking. The green skin invasion incident. This refers to the large number of green skin little ghosts and green skin horned beasts living on the 2nd and 3rd floors being transported by spatial turbulence to the vicinity of the 1st floor ruins. These green skin little ghosts and green skin horned beasts form a massive attack on the surrounding national outpost towns, villages, and fortress walls to defend them. Now everyone is strengthening their own houses, which can be said why you feel that the atmosphere is a bit off. Chemidus continued as he saw Yan Tielong's slightly lost expression. Uncle Chemidus, how did you defend the town from the green skin invasion incident 3 years ago? Yan Tieshiong wanted to know about the town's defense against the green skin invasion incident 3 years ago. If you want to know how the town resisted green skin 3 years ago, then you can help me move the goods of the MLU beast cart into the tavern first, said Chemidus as he rushed the MLU beast cart to stop and said to Yan Tailong. Upon hearing Chemidus's words, Yan Tailong looked at the Green Feather Chien Tavern on the street to the right with a big wooden wine glass sign and said, I didn't expect to end up at the tavern as soon as I spoke. Alright, stop talking nonsense, come and help. Chemidus reminded as he got off the MLU beast car and saw Yan Tailong still in a daze. Yes. I'm here to help. Yan Tailong responded and went to the back of the MLU beast car to help. Are you really okay, Tailong? Chemidus asked Yan Tailong, who demanded to carry 4 bags at once, and each bag of wine yeast weighed 100 pounds, feeling uneasy. Hee, Uncle Chemidus, this weight used to be impossible to move, but it's not too heavy for me now. Yan Tailong said with a clear expression and walked towards the warehouse of Green Yuqian Tavern, carrying the wine yeast. Uncle Chemidus, was that Yan Tailong just now? Platinum Eagle Flag Nan, who arrived, saw Yan Tailong carrying 4 bags of wine yeast and thought there was something wrong with his eyes, so he asked Chemidus. Well, I just didn't expect to see him for 2 years. His power growth is so amazing. Chemidus nodded and admitted that it was just Yan Tailong, surprised by Yan Tielong's power growth. Uncle Chemidus, didn't Yan Tailong have the same strength before? Asked Platinum Eagle Flag Nan. Hee, Iron Dragon has just arrived in our small town. His power is even smaller than yours. I thought he was a noble young man who knew nothing at that time. I just didn't expect to spend a year with him. His growth really surprised me. But his current strength is more than 1 or 2 times stronger than 2 years ago. Chemidus introduces the strength and growth of Yan Tielong's past. Uncle Chemidus, what are you talking about with Platinum Eagle Flag South? Yen Tailong asked as he arrived at the MLU Beast car from the tavern warehouse and looked at Chemidus and Platinum Eagle Flag South. Iron Dragon, we're talking about your past strength and how your power has become even stronger now, said Chemidus. Upon hearing Chemidiko's words, Yen Tailong thought to himself, my power has grown so much, I think it must be the blood of the dragon. Iron Dragon, help me quickly. Yen Iron Dragon was thinking when he heard Chemidus urgently shouting. Uncle Chemidus, what's the situation? Yen Tailong regained his senses and saw Platinum Eagle Flag South carrying 3 packages of nearly 300 pounds of goods. He looked very uncomfortable and asked in confusion. Platinum Eagle Flag South is beyond his control. He thought he had a lot of strength, so he became what he is now. Chemidus explained with concern as he looked at Platinum Eagle Flag South's painful expression. Brother Yen Tailong, come and help me quickly, I can't hold on anymore. Platinum Eagle Flag South cried out to Yen Tieshiong in cold sweat because the weight on his back was too heavy. Yen Tailong quickly picked up the goods on the back of Platinum Eagle Flag South and said, Platinum Eagle Flag South, just leave it to me. You can rest on the side. Pain. Pain. Platinum Eagle Flag Nan exclaimed with his hand touching his back in pain. Come, Platinum Eagle Flag South, let's take a break at the tavern first. Chemidus quickly supported Platinum Eagle Flag South, who had injured his waist due to weight. Chapter 8. Reasons for leaving Guyu Town. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yen Tailong moved all the goods from the 2 trucks of the MLU Beast cart to the warehouse of the tavern alone. Finally, he wiped his forehead and came to the counter, saying to Chemidus, Uncle Chemidus, I have already moved all the goods from the MLU Beast cart into the warehouse. Chemidus heard that Yen Tailong had already moved all the goods on the MLU Beast cart into the tavern warehouse. He opened the lid of the small wine barrel on the counter and shook a large glass of ale in front of Yen Tailong, thanking him, Tailong, thank you. If it weren't for you, I would have missed the peak period of the tavern. Let's drink a glass of ale to quench my thirst first. Yen Tailong was indeed a bit thirsty, so he picked up the malt wine and drank it in large gulps. Finally, he put down half of the malt wine wooden cup and loudly said, It's really satisfying to be able to drink this kind of malt wine after work. Chemidus was also very happy to see Yen Tailong's satisfied expression. At the same time, he remembered Yen Tailong's mission and the horns of the green-skin horn-toothed beast, and reminded Yen Tailong, by the way, Iron Dragon, give me your adventure badge and the horns of the green-skin horn-toothed beast. Yen Tailong heard that Chemidus wanted his adventure badge and the horns of the green-skin beast. He didn't expect to do 2 things like this and handed them to him, saying, Here, Uncle Chemidus. Iron Dragon, you have completed such a little task in 2 years. Chemidiko inserted Yen Iron Dragon's adventure badge into the special alchemy machine. The special alchemy machine displayed C 6 points, D 43 points, and E 66 points. He frowned and said, 1 point for completing each task, 2 points for failure. System prompt. The current Holy Emblem Mercenary Corps has completed a total of C 6 times, D 55 times, E 71 times, failed missions D 6 times, E 2 times, and now you have a total of 13,181 points. E equals 100 points, D equals 1,000 points, C equals 10,000 points, B equals 100,000 points, equals 1 million points, S equals 10 million points. This is the protagonist participating in a mission, his brain system improving the task points he has earned. Of course, in the future, if the protagonist does not participate in the mission and is hired by members of the Mercenary Corps to complete the mission, the protagonist will receive 1% of the bonus points. This is the effect that will only be reflected in the expansion of his Mercenary Corps and the transformation into a union in the future. Please use the items in your points collection. When Yen Tailong saw that Chemidus was changing from E 66 to 67 in his hand, his head suddenly appeared. D. 55 to D. 56. Introduction to the protagonist system. Points can be exchanged for making blueprints from 100 points of linen clothing to 10 billion points of Sky Fortress and equivalent divine artifact making blueprints. Of course, there are also magic and fighting spirit skill books, but he does not have physical objects that can be transformed out of thin air. He can only make them himself or draw the blueprints in his mind for others to make. Iron Dragon. Iron Dragon. Commodus shouted to Yen Tailong in a daze. Uncle Commodus, is that so? Yen Tailong, who had regained consciousness from his mind, asked Commodus, who was shouting at him. Iron Dragon, it seems that your old habit has been broken again. Here. Put away the adventure badge. By the way, your green skin horned beast's horn teeth will be exchanged for a reward for you later. It may be a bit late before we can give it to you. Commodus shook his head helplessly and placed the Yen Iron Dragon adventure badge in front of Yen Iron Dragon, saying. Hee, it's okay, it'll be a little later. By the way, how's Platinum Eagle Flag South doing? Yen Tailong withdrew his adventure badge and, upon hearing Commodus' words, didn't care about the green skin horn tooth beast's horn tooth bounty. Instead, he asked Platinum Eagle Flag South about his physical condition. Platinum Eagle Flag South, he injured his waist. I asked him to rest first. Later, I will go to the pharmacy to buy some medicine for him to wipe. It should be better soon, said Commodus. Oh, Uncle Commodus, if there's nothing else, I'll go first. Yen Tailong heard Commodus' words and drank the ale in one breath, forgetting to ask about the green skin invasion 3 years ago before, so he stood up and said. Tailong, wait a moment, don't be so anxious, Commodus shouted to Yen Tailong, who was about to leave. Yen Tailong asked Commodus, who was shouting at her, Uncle Commodus, what else is there? I remember on the way, you said you were going to organize a mercenary corps, right? Asked Commodus. When Yen Tailong heard Commodus asking him to organize a mercenary corps, he nodded and responded, MMM. Commodus saw Yen Tailong nodding in response and continued, then you should still remember, as I said at the time, there was someone I recommended to you. When Yen Tailong heard that Commodus wanted to recommend someone, he guessed, well, Uncle Commodus, you won't tell me. Is that person you want to recommend Platinum Eagle Flag South? Upon hearing Yen Tailong's speculation, Commodus denied it and said, how could it be that kid? The person I mentioned should be in Kalimis Hotel now. Aunt Kalimis. Uncle Commodus, you should know that Aunt Kalimis hates me very much. If I ask her to go to her hotel to recruit people, I'm afraid she'll drive me out. Yen Tailong thought to himself when he heard the name Kalimis. Don't worry, the person I mentioned owes Kalimis accommodation and treatment fees. As long as you help that person pay for their accommodation, I don't think Kalimis will rush you out. However, I am curious that Kalimis, who treated you like a biological child back then, suddenly changed her attitude towards you during that period, even forcing you to leave Guyu town. Why is this? Commodus was very curious about why Yen Tailong was kicked out of the hotel by Kalimis 2 years ago. He wanted to know the real reason why Yen Tailong left Guyu town that year. Yen Tailong returned to his previous seat, picked up the empty glass, and sighed, saying, Hi, it's not because of Aunt Kalimis's daughter. Tailong, you probably took action against that little girl Aishua, right? Commodus asked with a shocked and speculated expression upon hearing Yen Tailong's words. Upon hearing Commodus's wild speculation, Yen Tailong denied it and said, how could this be possible? I just treat Chili Aishua's sister like my own, how could I possibly take action against her? If I really take action against Sister Chili Aishua, do you think I can still stand here intact, Uncle Commodus? Well. You make sense. It should be easy to deal with you with Kalimis' strength, but what did you do back then that made Kalimis hate you so much? Commodus agreed and asked when he heard Yen Tailong's words and remembered Kalimis's swordsmanship. There was once a time when Chili Aishua was poisoned by a snake in the forest, and I helped her suck out the snake venom. Caution. Don't use your mouth to suck snake venom like in novels, it will cause you to be poisoned. However, when Aunt Chili Mice saw it, she thought I was bullying Chili Aishua. At that time, I was severely repaired, and Aunt Kalimis didn't treat me anymore. Yen Tailong couldn't help but think that even though he had saved Chili Aishua's sister, Aunt Kalimis didn't like him. Hee, there was another misunderstanding that led to your relationship becoming so bad. Tailong, why don't you explain? Kemidus asked after hearing Yen Tielong's words. I think Sister Chili Aishua will explain to Aunt Kalimis, and I don't want Aunt Kalimis, who was misunderstood, to beat her up again. At the same time, I also want to change my mood and go on a trip outside. Yen Tailong replied to Kemidus' inquiry after feeling down at the time. Kemidus whispered to himself upon hearing Yen Tielong's words, no wonder since Tailong left Guyu town, the relationship between Chili and her daughter has become so bad. It turns out that Kalimis misunderstood Tailong and Aishua. Yen Tailong looked at Kemidus muttering to himself and asked, Uncle Kemidus, what are you muttering about? Cough. Alright, Tailong, you waited for me at the Ruru Hotel earlier. When I buy medicine for Platinum Eagle, Chinon will go to the Ruru Hotel to find you and introduce the expert I mentioned. Kemidus changed the topic and said. Okay, since what you said, Uncle Kemidus, I'll go to the Ruru Hotel, Yen Tailong responded and walked towards the entrance of the tavern. Hey! Wait until you arrive at the Ruru Hotel, I hope you don't get kicked out by Aunt Kalimis. Yen Tailong thought anxiously as he walked through the small town street. Yen Tailong looked at the largest hotel in Guyu town before him, the Ruru Hotel. He was hesitating whether to enter or not. Finally, he made up his mind to sneak up to the hotel door and carefully opened it to look inside. When he found that there was no sign of Aunt Kalimis in the hotel, he breathed a sigh of relief and said, it seems that Aunt Kalimis is not here. The young girl who was cleaning the hotel suddenly noticed the sneaky Yen Tailong and nervously picked up the broom, shouting loudly, what kind of person? Yumi Lily's younger sister is me, your elder brother Yen Tailong. Yen Tailong said to the girl wearing maid clothing. You are brother Yen Tailong. Yumi Lily heard Yen Tielong's words and was pleasantly surprised to see the more mature Yen Tailong group than 2 years ago. Yen Tailong approached Yumi Lily and looked around, whispering, Yumi Lily's sister, is Aunt Kalimis here? Cluck, brother Yen Tailong, please rest assured that Aunt Miz is not here right now. Aunt Miz is currently buying ingredients from the vendors. Yumi Lily chuckled when she saw Yen Tielong's cautious appearance. It's good if you're not here, Yen Tailong heard Yumi Lily let out a sigh of relief. It seems that Aunt Miz's incident back then really cast a considerable shadow on brother Yen Tailong. Yumi Lily thought to herself when she saw Yen Tielong's expression of letting out a sigh of relief when she heard Kalimis no longer present. Yumi Lily couldn't bear Yen Tailong to continue, but when she accepted the look of fear, she reminded her, brother Yen Tailong, actually Aunt Miz is no longer angry with you. You don't need to do this. Is Yumi Lily's sister really? Yen Tailong unexpectedly confirmed when he heard Yumi Lily say that Aunt Kalimis had forgiven him. Yumi Lily nodded, making Yen Tailong feel that what she said was true. Yen Tailong relaxed when he saw Yumi Lily and said, oh, that's really great. Yuyu reading www.yuyukeangshu.net. By the way, Yumi Lily's sister, I want to visit the place where I used to live. I wonder if it's possible, Yen Tailong suggested to Yumi Lily that he wanted to see the room he used to live in. Sure, anyway, Aunt Miz has set up a restricted area in her old residence and there aren't many guests, Yumi Lily agreed. Yen Tailong bid farewell to Yumi Lily and walked out of the front desk of the hotel to the central small garden. He took a few steps forward and saw a slightly outdated house in front of him, muttering to himself, this place is really nostalgic. As Yen Tailong was reminiscing about his past life, a handsome young man walked out of the new hotel house on the left. When he saw Yen Tailong enter the old hotel, he frowned and muttered to himself, Aunt Kalimis is not here. Surprisingly, a thief ran into the forbidden area that Aunt Kalimis mentioned to steal things. Let's see how I deal with him. Nothing has changed here. Yen Tailong came to the room he lived in 2 years ago and sighed when he saw that the furnishings in the room were exactly the same as when he left. Just as Yen Tailong sighed about the house he used to live in, a handsome young man who had just thought Yen Tailong was a thief arrived at the entrance of the old house. He entered the house with small wings to prevent Yen Tailong from noticing. While Yen Tailong was lost in thought about the little things that happened here 2 years ago, he didn't even notice that someone had already searched the first floor house and had already searched the second floor, and was about to find his room. Dong! Dong! The handsome young man was in the hallway when he accidentally bumped into a portrait of an unknown celebrity hanging on the wall. The sound of something falling also made Yen Tailong clear his mind from contemplation. At the same time, he thought it was Aunt Kalimis who had returned, so he didn't want to touch her eyebrows and hid in the large wardrobe in his room. Chapter 9. Misunderstandings. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Oh. This is not Aunt Kalimis, but a man. I haven't seen him before. Is he the thief who stayed in? Yen Tailong, hiding in the wardrobe, whispered to himself as he saw through the crack in the door that he had opened his previous room door. Yen Tailong saw the handsome young man close the door again and cautiously walked out of the wardrobe with a hint of excitement on his face. He muttered in a low voice, "Hee, you're unlucky, kid. I'll make you a gift for Aunt Kalimis." Yen Tailong carefully opened the door and had just exposed his head to the doorway when suddenly he saw a fist constantly expanding in his eyes. Yen Tailong wanted to avoid the fist, but unfortunately it was too late. In the end, Yen Tailong's right eye was directly hit by the fist, causing him to have a black-purple eye circle in his right eye. The handsome young man opened Yen Tailong's room and found traces of people walking on the floor, but he didn't see anyone. In order to avoid causing panic, he left the room and ambushed him outside the door, thinking it was the thief Yen Tailong. As expected by the handsome young man, when Yen Tailong Iron opened the door and sneaked his head out, the handsome young man didn't give Yen Tailong a chance to react and directly punched him in the right eye. Yen Tailong felt very uncomfortable being hit in his right eye, but he endured the discomfort in his right eye and directly punched back at the person who attacked him. The handsome young man was a bit surprised that Yen Tailong was not knocked down by himself, and he directly defended Yen Tailong's punch in retaliation. Unfortunately, the handsome young man overestimated Yen Tailong's strength and was directly punched back by Yen Tailong, colliding with the wall across the corridor. Very powerful. The handsome young man felt a slight pain in his arm as he defended against Yen Tailong's attack. His expression became serious and he said, then raised his right hand to attack Yen Tailong. At the same time, Yen Tailong cursed inwardly, "Damn it. Surprisingly attacked me, I let you know what flower red is." He punched his opponent. When the fists of the two collided, the handsome young man took a few steps back from the power transmitted by his fists, while Yen Tailong only took a step back and smiled arrogantly when he saw his opponent retreating further than him, saying, If you dare to compare your strength with me, you are really looking for death. I don't even see who your opponent is." The handsome young man waved his right hand to alleviate the pain, and when he heard Yen Tailong's words, he directly pulled out his iron sword from his waist and chopped it towards Yen Tailong. "Damn it. I can't do hand-to-hand combat, but I actually wielded a sword. How shameless." Yen Tailong awkwardly dodged his opponent's chopping and cursed. Yen Tailong, who dodged several sword moves from his opponent in a disheveled posture, quickly pulled out his own sword to block their pursuit. The two swords collided, producing a ping-pong sound. Yen Tailong's strength was superior to his opponent, and the handsome young man used swordsmanship to guide him to strike the left wall with his sword and hit Yen Tailong's side abdomen with a left punch. Yen Tailong endured the pain in his side abdomen and used his sword to sweep and push back, which was considered a handsome young man's offensive move, allowing himself to regain defense while also allowing his previously exposed weaknesses to disappear. When the handsome young man quickly attacked Yen Tailong muttered while defending, and finally pushed his opponent away with a final sword, shouting, "Wind blade." Yen Tailong formed a magic formation with his left hand, in which more than 10 wind blades shot towards the handsome young man. The handsome young man used a shining iron sword to block Yen Tailong's wind blade and dodge some of it, while the wind blade that the handsome young man avoided directly broke through the wooden window behind him. The wooden window fragments flew out from the second floor of the old hotel into the small garden, and Yumi Lily, who had just arrived in the garden, screamed in fear of the wooden fragments falling in front of her. Ah! However, Yen Tailong and the handsome young man in the old inn were completely focused on each other. They didn't know that soon their misunderstanding led to a battle, which ultimately led to Yen Tailong's wallet being empty for a short period of time. "No problem, something's wrong. We need to inform Aunt Mice quickly." Yumi Lily was surprised to see a lot of noise on the second floor of the old hotel, and she saw that the sword had directly cut some gaps in the wall. Then she turned around and ran towards the previous counter. Yumi Lily ran to the counter and learned that Kalimis had gone to the kitchen. When she was panting and ran to the kitchen, she saw Kalimis chatting with another cook aunt, and loudly said, "Aunt Miss, it's not good, something's wrong." While chatting, Kalimis suddenly heard Yumi Lily's eager shout. She stopped cooking and looked at the kitchen door. When she saw Yumi Lily standing there panting, she asked in confusion, "Yumi Lily, don't worry, speak slowly if you have something to say." Upon hearing her aunt's words, Yumi Lily calmed her breathing a little and said urgently, "Aunt Mice, there's someone fighting in the old house, and the old house has already been damaged." Old house. I remember where I said it as a restricted area, so someone would go to that place. Kalimis heard Yumi Lily's words and asked in confusion. "Aunt Miss, just now brother Yen Tailong has returned, and he has entered the old house." Yumi Lily suddenly remembered Yen Tailong entering the old house when she heard her aunt's words. Yen Tailong has returned. When did this happen? Kalimis quickly asked when she heard Yen Tailong's news. "Well, it's just a little earlier than Aunt Mice," Yumi Lily replied. "Kumivis, this is for you." Kalimis begged the 30-something-year-old cook in the kitchen who was cutting meat. "Okay, boss." Kumwise, the cook, responded and took over Kalimis' work. Kalimis and Yumi Lily quickly ran towards the old house. At the same time, Yen Tailong and the handsome young man fought from the second floor of the old house to the first floor, and finally from the first floor to the small garden outside the house. Yen Tailong confronted the handsome young man again, but it seemed that Yen Tailong was a bit more embarrassed than the handsome young man. This was because Yen Tailong's clothes were scratched several times by his opponent and there were a few bloodstains on them, while the handsome young man only had his clothes torn. Yen Tailong looked ahead and thought that the thief was surprised by his strength. At the same time, he thought to himself, "Damn it. This guy in front of me is not as strong as me, but his swordsmanship is much better than mine. It seems impossible to determine the winner in a short time." The handsome young man also felt uncomfortable. He held his sword and trembled due to Yen Tailong's power, but he concealed it well and did not let Yen Tailong notice. "Ah!" Yen Tailong roared and charged towards a handsome young man. "Stop it!" Yen Tailong rushed halfway and suddenly heard a voice that he didn't want to hear. His strength disappeared and he was easily blocked by a handsome young man. When his sword was blocked, Yen Tailong quickly retreated and distanced himself from the handsome young man, who heard Kalimis's voice and did not pursue Yen Tailong. "What are you looking at? It's all scattered for me." Kalimis shouted at the onlookers, who seemed to know that Kalimis was powerful and all the people around her were amused and dispersed. "Yen Tailong, this happened right after you arrived at my place." "What exactly happened?" Kalimis said calmly to Yen Tailong as she saw that the onlookers had dispersed. Yen Tailong pointed at the handsome young man and hurriedly said to Kalimis, "Aunt Kalimis, he was the one who took the initiative, right? I'm helping you catch the thief." "Thief? It seems like 2 years have passed for Yen Tailong, and you haven't changed at all. Kalimis saw Yen Tailong pointing at the handsome young man in a calm tone, but her calm tone actually scared Yen Tailong. Hee, Aunt Kalimis, you have lost a lot of weight and become more beautiful than before. Yen Tailong said with flattery. Really? What's going on with Ospian? Kalimis responded to Yen Tailong and then asked the handsome young man. Aunt Kalimis, I didn't know he knew you. This guy sneaked into your designated restricted area, and I thought he was a thief. I wanted to catch him, and then I started fighting him, Ospian explained to Kalimis. You both said the other was a thief, do you still think the other is a thief now? Kalimis asked as she looked at Yen Tailong and Ospian, who were a bit embarrassed. Aunt Kalimis, we misunderstood. Your Excellency Ospian, I'm really sorry. Yen Tailong responded to Kalimis and apologized to Ospian. Your Excellency Yen Tailong, it was my recklessness to take action against you without understanding. I should have apologized to you, said Ospian with an apologetic tone. Now that you have figured it out, it's time for me to settle the accounts with you. Kalimis smiled at Ailan as she saw that Yen Tailong and Ospian had misunderstood each other. Aunt Kalimis, what's the deal? I don't seem to owe you any money. Yen Tailong said hastily upon hearing Kalimis' words. Yumi Lily, go help me get my notebook and pen. Kalimis ignored Yen Tailong's words and instructed Yumi Lily beside her, Yu reading www.yuyukeangshu.net. Okay, Aunt Ms. Yumi Lily responded and ran towards the hotel counter. Cough. No one can leave here without permission until Yumi Lily comes back, otherwise the consequences will be at her own risk. Kalimis deliberately coughed and threatened when she saw Yen Tailong sneaking away. Hee, Aunt Kalimis, I don't want to run away, I want to go to the bathroom. Yen Tailong knew she had found out when he heard Kalimis' threat and laughed. Do you want to go to the bathroom? Then you have to endure it. If you really can't resist, you can solve it here. Don't worry, I will help you with the aftermath. Kalimis said calmly, but she made Yen Tailong feel full of danger. Hee, Aunt Kalimis, I can't help but go and solve it when the matter is over, Yen Tailong said awkwardly. Not long after, Yumi Lily came to Kalimis with a book, a feather pen, and a bottle of black ink. She said to Kalimis, Aunt Miss, I've brought everything. Yumi Lily, I'll have you record it later, Kalimis instructed Yumi Lily. Oh. Alright, Yumi Lily heard Kalimis' command and felt strongly puzzled, but still agreed. Yen Tailong, I heard from Chemidus that you want to organize a mercenary corps, and he recommended you to come to me to recruit Ospian, right? Kalimis asked Yen Tailong. Ah. Yen Tailong exclaimed in surprise when he heard Kalimis, pointing at Ospian and asking, Kalimis Auntie, you said he was Uncle Chemidus asking me to recruit him. Yen Tailong, so, didn't Chemidus tell you? Kalimis frowned and asked. Chapter 10. Arrears. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Uncle Chemidus, he just recommended me to come here. He said he would introduce me to a very skilled expert when he came here, but he didn't tell me who it was. Yen Tailong shook his head and said. Chemidus is still the same person, still so fond of mystery in mystery. Kalimis muttered to herself when she heard Yen Tailong's words, and then looked at him seriously and asked, Yen Tailong, do you think Ospian is your companion so much? With his strength, of course there's no problem. If he agrees to join my mercenary corps, I can let him be my deputy. Yen Tailong was a bit surprised when he heard Kalimis' words, but immediately agreed and promised the position of deputy commander of the mercenary corps. Aunt Kalimis. When Ospian heard Kalimis and Yen Tailong's conversation and was about to object, he was unfortunately interrupted by Kalimis. Ospian, I know what you want to say, but please listen to me first. Kalimis watched as Ospian was interrupted by herself and continued, Ospian, you have been with your aunt for 3 months. During this period, your aunt has recommended several mercenary corps to you, but you have all withdrawn from them for various reasons, and your aunt has not blamed you, has she? Aunt Kalimis, it's not my fault. There are some practices of those mercenary groups that I really can't agree with, Ospian interrupted and quickly explained when he heard Kalimis talk about mercenaries. Hi. Kalimis sighed and continued, Auntie didn't blame you. I know you have a soft eye, but as a man, you can't make money without work, and you will have to get married and have children in the future. If you don't work hard now, your life will definitely be very difficult in the future. And Yen Tailong, this guy, has a strong and casual demeanor, but there are some places that are very similar to you. I think you must have a very pleasant time together. Aunt Kalimis, I understand now. I will promise you that I will temporarily join his mercenary corps. If he is like those mercenary corps, I will choose to leave directly. Please don't stop me then. Ospian agreed to Kalimis' proposal to join Yen Tielong's mercenary corps, knowing that Kalimis was in his best interest, but he also made his own request. Ospian, I can promise Yen Tailong to you. As long as you feel that Yen Tailong has the same moral character as the mercenary group you once joined, if you want to leave, I will definitely not oppose it. I will even personally teach the bad guys a lesson. Kalimis directly agreed to Ospian's request on behalf of Yen Tailong and looked at Yen Tailong with a threatening gaze, while Yen Tailong appeared very embarrassed. Aunt Kalimis, if you say that, I can rest assured, Ospian said with peace of mind. After resolving Ospian's matter, Kalimis said to Yen Tailong, it's time to settle our accounts now. Follow me to the counter. Yen Tailong was very pleased to hear that Kalimis helped him persuade Ospian to join his mercenary corps. He obediently listened and followed Kalimis towards the counter when Kalimis wanted to settle accounts with him. Yumi Lily, next I want to say, you take a good note of it for me. When Kalimis arrived at the counter, she instructed Yumi Lily beside her. Okay, Aunt Ms., Yumi Lily said seriously as she placed her notebook on the counter and dipped her feather pen in the black ink that had already been opened. Kalimis saw that Yumi Lily was ready and said, Yen Tailong is willing to pay for accommodation and treatment for his team member Ospian. In addition, Yen Tailong competed with his team members in martial arts, which caused significant damage to the newly built dormitory in this hotel and frightened the guests living here. He himself agrees to compensate the hotel with 300 gold coins. 3,300 gold coins. Aunt Kalimali, are you joking? My companions and I just injured that house, and it can be repaired for only 5 or 6 gold coins. There's no need to spend 300 gold coins, you're extorting. Yen Tailong exclaimed loudly when he heard that the compensation was as high as 300 gold coins. Has Yumi Lily remembered? Kalimis ignored Yen Tielong's words and asked Yumi Lily who was currently recording. Yumi Lily felt that Kalimis wanted too much, but she still recorded what she said. It's not good, the landlady has an accident. Kalimis heard Yumi Lily respond and just as she was about to say something, she heard a woman in her 30s running up to her and shouting loudly. Kalimis frowned at the hurried salesperson and asked, Bumayuna, what's going on? Old lady, I don't know what's wrong with the old house, it suddenly collapsed. Bumayuna gasped and said intermittently. Kalimis asked directly when her old house collapsed, has anyone been injured? Boss, you didn't let anyone in earlier, so no one was injured, but some guests were frightened, Bumayuna said fluently. Kalimis heard that Bumayuna said that no one was injured, and she was a little relieved and said directly, it would be good if no one was injured. As for those frightened guests, each of them would prepare a small dim sum as a gift. Okay, boss, I'll go tell the kitchen to do it now. Bumayuna responded to her boss's plan and walked towards the kitchen. Bumayuna, wait, tell the kitchen to prepare a small dim sum for all the guests staying in our hotel, and tell those guests that they were frightened by my mistake and apologize. When Karimis saw that Bumayuna was about to leave the door, she shouted at her and told all the guests to wait and meet again. Bumayuna heard her boss's instructions and was a bit puzzled as to why he wanted to spend more money, but she agreed without any meaning and said, yes. Boss, I'll order the kitchen to do it now. Kalimis saw Bumayuna leaving the door and turned to Yen Tailong, who had a sore face, asking, Yen Tailong, what is the point of this compensation now? Upon hearing Kalimis's question, Yen Tailong felt a pain in his flesh and awkwardly said, No, but Aunt Kalimis, I don't have that much money on me. Upon hearing Yen Tailong's words, Kalimis said, Yen Tailong, give me your money first, and I will compensate you when you have money. Upon hearing Kalimis's words, Yen Tailong took out 17 gold coins, as well as silver and copper coins worth approximately 3 gold coins, and said, Aunt Kalimis, this is all my money. Have you only saved this little money for 2 years outside? Kalimis frowned as she saw all the money at the counter from Yen Tailong, and then picked up the IOU written in her notebook according to her instructions and placed it in front of Yen Tailong. I'll take these 17 gold coins for now, and the remaining silver and copper coins will be used for your living expenses. Also, write your name under the IOU. Yen Tailong felt a great pain when he saw Kalimis taking away 17 gold coins from him. He then looked at the IOU in front of him and took Yumi Lily's feather pen, trembling and writing his name under the IOU. Kalimis picked up a notebook with Yen Tailong's signature on the IOU and satisfactorily instructed Yumi Lily, prepare a regular room for our mercenary commander. Remember to collect the money for the room. If he doesn't have money, he will owe it. Upon hearing Kalimis's instructions, Yumi Lily responded, Okay, Aunt Mississippi. Brother Yen Tailong, please come this way. Yumi Lily said to Yen Tailong, and then Yen Tailong walked towards his accommodation with a gloomy expression and tears streaming down his face. Brother Yen Tailong, I have something to remind you of. Yumi Lily arranged for Yen Tailong not to leave, but instead said seriously. What's up, Yumi Lily's sister? Yen Tailong asked as he looked at Yumi Lily with a serious expression on his face. It's about Brother Ospian, Yumi Lily said directly. Ospian, is he like this? Yen Tailong asked in confusion when he heard about Ospian. Yumi Lily saw Yen Tailong curious and said, Brother Ospian, he was all injured and collapsed in our hotel 3 months ago, and was finally rescued by Aunt Mice. Ospian, shouldn't that be a problem? Yen Tailong interrupted Yumi Lily's words. Yumi Lily, interrupted by Yen Tailong, bulged her cheeks and said angrily, Brother Yen Tailong, please listen to me first, otherwise I will be angry. Okay, it's my fault, Yumi Lily's sister, please continue. Yen Tailong apologized directly when he saw Yumi angry. Upon hearing Yen Tailong's apology, Yumi Lily continued, Brother Ospian actually had complete amnesia when he first woke up. He didn't even know who he was, and it wasn't until a month later that he remembered his name. He himself was very jealous of evil, like a knight in a fairy tale. Amnesia. Hatred of evil as hatred, and made Yumi Lily's sister feel like a knight in a fairy tale. It seems that before his amnesia, he was either a nobleman or a knight who was taught very strictly. It's not easy to get along with him well. Yen Tailong muttered to himself upon hearing Yumi Lily's words. Brother Yen Tailong, what's wrong with you? Yumi Lily shouted when she saw Yen Tailong lost in thought. Oh, it's nothing, hee. Yen Tailong came back and said to Yumi Lily with a smirk. Yumi Lily looked at Yen Tailong's strange expression and said, Brother Yen Tailong, there's nothing I need to do. I'll leave first. When Yumi Lily left the room, Yen Tailong placed his equipment by the bed and then sat down on the bed to rest. At the same time, Kalimis returned to her room and came to the locked large iron box. She opened the box and looked at the IOU with Yen Tailong's signature in her hand, muttering to herself, it seems we need a new notebook. Kalimis put Yen Tailong's IOU into a large iron box, locked it, and walked out of the room towards the hotel counter. The ancient feather town, which has already entered the evening, has another kind of beauty. Unfortunately, Yen Tailong is not in the mood to see this beautiful scenery now. He is pulling Ospian into the Green Feather Chien Tavern. Uncle Chemidus, bring me a table of good dishes and wine. I want to celebrate my new members joining. Yen Tailong brought Ospian to the hotel counter and said to the smiling Chemidus. Captain Yen Tailong, we don't have much money at the moment, so there's no need to spend money recklessly. Ospian kindly reminded Yen Tailong when he heard that he was going to spend a lot of money on him. Hee, having no money is good, having no money is the motivation to make money. Yen Tailong responded with a hee and then reminded Chemidus, Uncle Chemidus, hurry up and arrange the table. All right. Chemidus responded and shouted to the female waitress who was chatting with the guests, Lumi Sisi, prepare a table for these two. Good boss. Lumi Sisi responded, then took Yen Tailong and Ospian to the empty dining table. Wait, Yen Tailong. Chemidus grabbed Yen Tailong and said. Yen Tailong told Ospian that he would continue walking with Lamixi and that he would be coming soon. Then he asked Chemidus, Uncle Chemidus, what's up with you? Hee, Yen Tailong has you, and he actually recruited Ospian. But you need to get along well with him, otherwise Uncle won't spare you. Chemidus congratulated first and then became serious. Hee, Chemidus, don't worry, I will definitely get along well with him. I'm treating him to a big meal to celebrate his joining. Yen Tailong said. That's good, Chemidus said before returning to the counter, while Yen Tailong walked towards the side where he had already sat at the dining table.